Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming. My name is Eric Peterson. I am a manager of marketing systems engineering at Tableau Software. We do visualization, analytics, business intelligence. Our mission is to help people see and understand their data.
And I'm Josh Koenig. I'm a co-founder and head of product for Pantheon, a website management platform. We are powering the world's websites and helping people succeed with open source technology on the web. Oh, that's us. Our Twitter handles, in case you're interested.
Let's engage social media. So we kind of want to give a little bit of context. Everyone here understands this kind of vision, this idea that software is eating the world. New Relic believes that every organization is a software organization or is becoming one. And we kind of share the same belief. But not only do we believe that every organization is a software organization, but every unit within an organization is also a software organization. We're starting to do things that are automating things that we used to do, things that we used to require people to do by hand, we are starting to automate using software. And marketing is no different.
Yeah, marketing is a practice that involves software, and this is a good thing. Like overall, if you think about the legacy of marketing, and you're a fan of Mad Men, that was the era when they could tell you 50% of advertising works and 50% doesn't. And the funny thing is, we can't tell you which is which. Or you looked at like rooms full of people furiously pounding out copy and using telex machines, and hopefully getting something into another bigger machine that would print it on dead pieces of paper that people would unfurl and anti-socially read while they were on mass transit. And we're moving more towards an era where marketing is defined by not just digital assets, but quantitative realization of results, and being able to know what worked and what didn't, and being able to actually drive the build, measure, learn cycle as part of the engine that grows a business. And this is all like, there's some downsides to this in terms of like, sometimes marketing goes wrong and your like screen is covered with pop-up ads and takeovers, and nobody likes that. And I don't think it really works for organizations, but sometimes it goes wrong, or you get a little bit too much spammy email, and marketing automation can definitely run amok. But the overall trend, I think, is positive in that it's helping businesses to grow, and it's helping them grow in a more authentic way because it's connected to delivering value. It's really connected to business value being delivered to customers, helping businesses grow. And that's an exciting place to be as an engineer developing software. But it's complicated. There's like a whole lot of different tools out there. Like this infographic is super trite. I imagine everyone's seen some version of this before. But there's like 10,000 different pieces of software that you can use for marketing. And if you think that the answer to doing better marketing is just to get a few more of these in your portfolio, you might be right, but you also might just be spending a bunch of money on software that provides dubious, if any, business value. And so I think, to Eric's point, right, this is the lesson. This is the context that we're in.
Essentially, in order for a marketing organization to be successful, they need to begin to think about operating and building software as a fundamental component of what they do. In order to hit those lead generation numbers, those qualified lead numbers, and make sure the salespeople are fed and happy, they need to be able to not just buy the software, but integrate, develop on top of. And so if we were to think of how a marketing organization does that now, you would basically have to go to a technical expert somewhere else. And the question is, who provides the technical expertise now?
Yeah, in an organization where marketing hasn't yet embraced this challenge, right, where do you go? Well, you can go to your product and engineering organization. There's probably a ton of talent there, and they can provide a lot of benefit. You can go to IT. If you're a big company, you probably actually have to go to IT instead of product engineering, because that's who's tasked with supporting your technical needs. You might be able to go to a vendor. This is, again, looking at like a build versus a buy, like something that you could get off the shelf. Or you could shop it out. You could go to an agency. You could go to a consultancy. You could go to a dev shop to help get you what you want. And there are problems. There are real problems with all these approaches, even though sometimes they totally do work, which is that the priorities of these different organizations are not your priorities as a marketing organization. Product and engineering always wants to build new features. IT's mandate is for stability, security, uptime. A product vendor, they want to close a deal with you, which may or may not involve getting you what you need, and or their emphasis is really on their roadmap. And if you hire a professional services organization, their imperative as a business is going to be towards effective utilization of their resource and getting the most billable hours they can out of their staff, which is none of the things that you need as a marketing organization, which is agility, velocity, the ability to experiment. And we're familiar with the conflicts that resolve from this kind of motivational discord. I think anybody who's been on either side of this has felt the frustration of, dang you, marketing, why do you always come to me with your last-minute requests for stuff that I don't understand?
And I, as marketing, am always like, well, I need to do this. Why can't you spin up the resources to do this project for me? I have this campaign. I need to hit these numbers.
Yeah, totally.
And so what we're here to do today is to make peace. We want to make peace between marketing and IT. And so we have a document that we're going to memorialize today here, forever ending this debate. Should be a good moment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Here, you can.
Oh yeah. So, on behalf of IT professionals everywhere, I recognize that marketing delivers business value through creative experimentation and a bias towards action.
And I, on behalf of marketers everywhere, CMOs everywhere, recognize that you, IT, are resource-constrained in delivering mission-critical infrastructure, and that I understand your values of stability and reliability.
Thank you.
Can we?
Those are commemorative.
Oh, thank you. Fabulous.
Thanks.
Well, good job. Well done there. So it's over now. Great. We'll see you guys later. No, seriously. So now this is what we want to talk about, and we have real-world examples. This isn't just like a vision that we have for world peace. It is a thing that is happening right now inside of organizations that are winning, and your organization can win too by getting some of this mojo. So Eric, you've got the first one.
So here, I want to talk about Tableau.com. Usually when you think of marketing building a website, you think, oh, it's just brochureware. They're just they got some HTML, they got some content, we're trying to sell people stuff. But Tableau.com is actually, I like to call it a lead generation machine. It is probably beyond the marketing operations, the marketing automation system that we run, the single most important piece in our marketing stack. When you think of a website, it needs to be very fast, performant. Naturally, revenue is directly tied to conversions. Conversions is definitely tied to performance. And not only that, but we need to be able to iterate rapidly on it. And I kind of want to tell you a story of where we used to be. Our IT organization had our systems on infrastructure internally, but their primary mandate was to work on a SaaS offering that we have to our customers. Currently, we have a multi-tenant business intelligence cloud. At the time, we had a kind of nascent SaaS offering where anyone could upload visualizations and share them with anyone in the world, primarily bloggers, journalists, and data enthusiasts. And the infrastructure they had set up for that, I want to kind of represent with this Lotus Esprit. It's super sexy. They put in a lot of work and effort into scaling that out, monitoring that. But the system, because they were so busy and focused on building this, they gave us something more akin to this, where it works, but it isn't really exactly what we want. We were running monitoring of actually Lou was talking about this in his keynote yesterday. We had Nagios running, and we didn't get all of the performance data that we needed to make those optimizations. And also because they were resource constrained, they were working on the bigger problem of data visualization sharing. It's like this innovative platform for doing that. We kind of got it's like a cobbler's children type scenario. We got infrastructure that they had left over, and if we wanted changes to those, the process of getting it was very, very painful. So what we did was we kind of designed an alliance. We got into this flow where operations team would vet security on vendors that we were looking at to accomplish those problems. And marketing would kind of define the technical requirements and do the actual sourcing. And we ended up getting something that we actually wanted, which looked more like this, so a nice little bicycle. We know how to work on it. I feel comfortable working on a bicycle. The underlying stack was, rather than internally hosted, we went with Pantheon, highly tuned for what we needed to do. And underneath that, we had new Relic to do the performance monitoring and some software analytics underneath. And sort of consequently, we developed this awesome relationship with our IT organization where what we wanted to do was, I guess what I'm trying to say is we're not telling you that your marketing organization has this technical resource and they're just going to buy a bunch of stuff. What we want to do is find the common problems that are inherent in our stack, like a website platform. That's like a thing that everyone needs, so we can use that. Monitoring is another situation there. But what we want the technical team to be able to do is fill in the gaps that those platforms don't necessarily solve. We need to do some customizations around workflow, and Pantheon has a robust API that allows us to do that. New Relic allows us to do a lot of custom instrumentation that we need to do. And so marketing, we want to kind of focus on being technical in the ways that differentiate our organization from those common problems.
Cool. I'm going to tell a story with some similar outlines about another customer of ours. Like one of the beautiful things about my job is I get to see into what a lot of people are doing with their websites. And I like to quote from Blade Runner, like, I've seen things you wouldn't believe. But I've seen some really awesome things as well. And one of them is a customer of ours called Admiral. Admiral does a really neat SaaS product for helping people who are advertising online retarget better and get more value out of their ad budget. That's super cool. When we first started talking to Admiral, they were a startup, they were growing fast, they were executing like crazy, they were doing all of the startup cliches that you need to do to win. One of the things that is encompassed in that, which isn't so great, is they had built their product and their website as the same thing. So they had, initially this was really cool because it meant they had this super light, really cool website with no like cruft around it, and the engineers could just use like the tightest markdown language to define the content, and the page load was minimal, and they were able to ensure performance because they had their software engineers that did their product also doing the web pages. But then what happened was they realized pretty quickly as they needed to develop a formal marketing organization, when they got to that sort of inflection point as a growing startup where they hired someone who was in charge of marketing, that person started coming up with lots of things to do. And this kind of like Franken-site that they had, which was effectively a really cool SaaS product with a bunch of like brochureware pages bolted onto the side, started to slow them down enormously. Because every request, whether it was to change a typo or to put a new form up or to drop a little like change to the tracking code, that had to go through the backlog of the engineering organization. And the engineering organization is like much more interested in getting the next rev of the product out, much more interested in fixing the bug that like customers are complaining about, much more interested in like figuring out how to integrate with something else to land the next big wave of customers. And so the marketing organization was, essentially in this game of tug of war with the engineering organization to do simple things like, we got a new customer case study, it's so awesome, let's get it on the website. Okay, maybe we can do that in a couple weeks after we finish the current sprint. It's just a bad situation. Nobody wants to be in that situation because your organization isn't able to function. So the answer was to kind of begin the process of separating these two things. So the idea of, our website, which is something that faces the general public and contains lots of information about our business and our customers and everything else, and it attracts people to us and converts them, as Eric was talking about, into prospects or customers or what have you, is different from our product, which is also on the web, but you probably have to log into and is built by an engineering team. The idea that they were able to get to was they built enough of technical expertise within their marketing group to own the website. They were able to say, like, marketing actually owns this. It's ours. We can do whatever we want with it. We're responsible for delivering the business value through the website. And then they were able to do really good things. They actually kind of turned into analytics ninjas and like were able to drive up the rate at which people were attracted to their product very quickly. And then everybody on the engineering team is happy because engineering wants to build products so that there are customers. And there aren't any customers if you don't have a great website. So by kind of creating this, what I call the separation of church and state between the problems that are the domain of the marketing organization and the problems that were previously the domain also of the product and engineering group, they were able to like really let marketing thrive. And the point was it was by empowering them, by giving them total ownership of the public-facing website, which is something that a lot of like early stage companies, because it's not expedient to do initially, like doing two things is harder than doing one thing, they end up in the weird Franken situation of having two things at once. And so I can say with quite a bit of certainty that once you get to that point, splitting the atom, such as it were, is a really, really good idea.
I kind of want to talk about being data-driven in an organization. A marketing organization, as you said earlier, Josh, it contributes direct business value to an organization, and being able to measure that is super, super important. And not only being able to measure that, but make decisions based on that. Being in a marketing organization, if you're someone who's non-technical, this can be a super frustrating experience. You are non-technical, you don't necessarily know how to connect to those sources of data that might contain the data that you could use to answer questions you have. Or potentially you are in a much, much larger kind of enterprise organization where IT, Tableau, my company, we like to help customers out in this situation where they are in a system where business intelligence is controlled centrally by an IT organization, and IT ends up being kind of a report factory where you ask them, like, hey, could you give me a report on the latest lead generation numbers? And you might go through a cycle that takes like weeks or months to get that answer that you actually needed in like seconds. And so at Tableau, we have kind of an enlightened IT organization. We dog food our product. We have a central hub where we can share visualizations and insights. But the report generation, there's no like report factory going on. We expect every user in the company to be able to connect to the data that they need and analyze the questions that they have. And so if you have a technical marketing organization who is no longer in charge of being a report factory for marketing, something that a typical marketing operations organization would be responsible for, we kind of have an interesting vantage. Because the technical organization owns the full stack from like the website and the subsystems underneath it all the way up to the analytics on top of it, because we know all of the APIs and the data that flows through those systems where it lives, all we have to do is enable our marketers to connect to that data and answer their questions. So for instance, if I were a content marketer, because I know that the website contains all of the content and because I know that all of the content in the website is categorized in such a way that it can be displayed in an organized way to end users, why not build like a Docker container that connects to, that like proxies the MySQL connection to Pantheon, and basically just roll that up into a data connection that any marketer that can connect to, and then visualize what they need to answer. And if I were a content marketer, I would care about where might I need to make investments for the next quarter based on like an industry or a type of content. Do I need to do more white papers? Do I need to do more case studies? That kind of thing. Or we have a localization team, and they might be more concerned with like, what should I translate in the next quarter? Where should I focus my limited budget for translating content in the next quarter? We support 7 languages on our website, so this is super important. And we know that we have that content data store that we can connect to, but we also store like conversions in New Relic Insights. And so it's super helpful to be able to blend data between New Relic Insights for the conversions and the content store to determine what content converts best and what content that converts best hasn't been translated yet. And so they can prioritize their budget that way. So I guess the key kind of takeaway here is that you should not be the report factory if you're a technical marketing organization. You should be enabling your marketers to answer questions on their own. You want your stack to enhance and enable their kind of innate curiosity. You don't want to be the roadblock.
Cool. And my last example will actually be from Pantheon, my own lived experience over the past 5 years building a startup, right? So we started out not actually in a garage, but a lot like these guys who are friends of mine who started a company in the garage. And it's early, it's exciting, you're building things, you're doing stuff. I have a background as a professional website developer. I and my co-founder helped build our first version of our website, naturally. Now, because we were a website management platform and we had seen this before, we didn't make the initial mistake of building the website and the product as one munged together thing. We do run our website on our platform, which is like, it would be pretty not legit if we didn't. But we still ended up in the tug-of-war situation because we had founders being the ones who had built the website. And you know, it's the thing you do when you're a founder or an early employee. You wear many hats, right? That's a cliche. But wearing many hats is like a short-term fix. It's not a long-term sustainable proposition. And so you know, we got to a point where we were stealing design resources from the person who was supposed to be designing the next version of our dashboard and borrowing time from me and my other co-founder who were supposed to be like writing blog posts and like doing product specifications and helping to like launch next version of the product to get like a kind of the cobbler's children have no shoes again. Actually, what we were getting from that type of process also wasn't even a great website. Like, it was a website, and it had the content on it. We thought it was good, but when we had brought in someone to really run our marketing organization, she was pretty unambiguous that the website was not good enough. And it wasn't good enough because we didn't have the ability to put resources towards it. And so we thought, OK, let's get there. Let's solve this problem. We have this vision for how we're going to evolve into like a really powerful marketing organization. And I think we look up to what Eric is talking about in terms of reality of like having a real technical team in marketing. How that actually happened in practice was, even though it felt a little weird, we hired an agency to help us with our website. And it was good. They in 2 months, they turned around a way better website than we would have built for ourselves. And then we had a contract with them to help us maintain it. And so the marketing team and the agency could actually work to improve and iterate on the website, because you don't get it right on launch. You have to be able to launch it 3 or 4 or 5 times continuously. And then eventually we got a full-time contractor to work on the website because we had so many ideas and so many requests. And I was happy to report that as of 1 month ago, we have a full-time developer on staff in the marketing organization. So we're not quite like angelically flying, but we are starting to break out of our shell a little bit as a marketing team. And as a founder and a technical member of the company, I don't know that it's in really good hands. I know that they're actually going to be able to execute on their own time, with their own vision. They'll be responsible for hitting their own targets. And they won't say, oh, maybe we could have gotten more leads if only we had gotten the help we needed, because they're actually empowered to solve their own problems. The lesson, I think, from our experience is that it just doesn't happen overnight. What we're talking about, the idea of applying the principles of DevOps inside of a marketing organization, it's a shift in culture. It's a shift in resources. You have to invest in it, and you have to invest in it for the long term. But it is so worth it if you can get it working. I really encourage anybody who's intrigued by this to go do this. You can start small, and it'll make a really big difference in your life.
Kind of to tag along there, Tableau has existed longer than Pantheon has a little bit. And so we're a little bit further along the journey. We have a team of 7 developers now. Even within that organization itself, we have a kind of a nascent test team. We're starting to do some really kind of interesting things, doing test automation, not on our software, but on marketing automation software. Again, I just want to echo, start that journey, make that peace accord in your company, whatever form that takes.
And just to close with a bit of a call to action, for any developers in the audience, I think that because of the same reasons we have a peace accord here on stage, there's a cultural gap often between marketing organizations and technical organizations. That gap is closing. And in the world of DevOps and Agile development, we all talk about and recognize the primacy of business value. And if you want to be a developer who's close to business value, help build a technical marketing organization, and you will be face-to-face with the realities of delivering business value on an everyday basis. It's really exciting. It's actually really hard, but it's a great place where there's a lot of really cool challenges, and if you can find awesome solutions, it'll definitely make a dent. So that's our presentation, and thanks very much, and we're happy to answer any questions if you have them.